How is the 2025 recruiting cycle coming along at this point?
Pretty good, Mark. It's going to be weird kind of seeing how it all shakes out. Florida's, in some battles. They got some names there, Mark, but I do think it's probably going to be a lot of wait and see mode for how Florida performs in this season. They had that big summer rush last year. They got up to number 3 in the recruiting rankings. The season didn't go as well as they had hoped, and certainly had a falter down the stretch. So I'll pull it up. I think it's 4 or 5 commits right now. Off the top of my head, let me see. Pretty quick. So 5 commits right now, led by Jalen Wiggins, one of the top defensive linemen in the country. Went to the state of Georgia and got Peyton Joseph, an interior offensive lineman. Offensive line recruiting has not been the best since Billy Napier has taken over. Definitely known for their development of lower rated prospects, but recruiting starting at a high level in that room would certainly be a big boon for this program to get that position group changed around. But sitting at 5 commits right now, Mark, about 2 top 100 prospects as it sits right now. So a lot of visits over the last few weeks. There'll be some at the spring game as well. Hopefully that can set the stage for some kind of big summer at Florida. Again, they definitely won't have that big push they had last summer, Mark. There's just no way with the situation this program is in right now, whether it's true or not, whether it's fair or not, that the talk of Billy Napier being on the hot seat. But that's certainly going to come across in recruiting battles from rival coaches. That's going to be brought up. So I think it's going to be a little bit slower summer than it was last year, more of a wait-and-see approach, and see if Florida can have a big finish compared to what they did last year.
David, I've spent many an off-season day ranking schedules and building spreadsheets and making all sorts of comparisons and trying to figure out, okay, they may have the toughest, they may have the second tough, and it's a usually a very close call trying to figure out for the entire Power 5. This offseason, slam dunk, no doubt. It's Florida. I don't even have to look at it past that. It's incredible, and you probably have talked about it ad nauseum. The final 5 games are ridiculous. So is there this thought that among the fan base that, come on, how are we going to get through this season and have whatever we could term a successful season? This could be, if this team goes 7-5, they better be ranked like in the top 20 in the country. Seriously.
You get 7 wins, there will be good wins on that schedule. I mean, that's how tough this schedule is. Samford is the only for sure write it in a marker win. I mean, look, Mississippi State in year 1 of Jeff Lebby, that should be a win. But Billy Napier's had trouble on the road since he's been head coach at Florida. I mean, there's been no for sure wins when you've dealt with Billy Napier at Florida so far. Losing to Vanderbilt in year 1, losing to Arkansas last year as well. Games that should have been wins for Florida did not appear to be wins when were not wins when the final gun exploded. So Mark, it's very tough, and it starts week 1 with Miami. UCF comes to town as well. Texas A&M with Mike Elko comes to town, and then you mentioned that final 5-game stretch. It is tough. I mean, Kentucky is not a for sure win anymore for Florida. Play them before a bye week, and then Georgia. So I mean, Mark, the final 7 games: Tennessee, Kentucky, Georgia, Texas, LSU, Ole Miss, Florida State. I mean, it is brutal. But I've maintained the fact, Mark, if this thing is headed in the right direction, no matter how hard the schedule is, we should know. I mean, there's enough talent on the roster not to compete for championships. Nobody's expecting Florida to compete for championships, but there's enough talent on this roster. If it's headed in the right direction, you'll know. There should be a couple of upset wins. You should win the games you're supposed to win. We should, by the time Florida State rolls around in late November, we should know the direction of this program, if it's headed in the right direction under Billy Napier, no matter how hard the schedule is.
And you probably know better than I do that week 1 showdown against Miami, that's a home game. That's a huge advantage, obviously, but those Miami fans are counting that up as a win like it's nothing. And these are 2 teams and 2 programs trying to find themselves. So that could really push one of them in a good direction, and then the other one, not so much.
Yeah, I mean, there's another program right now that can say there's no for sure wins on the schedule. Miami is in that boat as well, given the games that they have lost, how they've lost games the last couple of years under Mario Cristobal. Look, that's a high stakes game. Both coaches had in their third year. Both coaches looking for some momentum in their programs. Mark, I think for that side of Miami that you just explained, if you go to the Florida side of it, I've mentioned the unexplainable losses that Billy Napier has had in his tenure so far, where there's been some unexplainable wins early season for Billy Napier the last couple of years as well. Getting that game opening win versus Utah, getting that first big home game win last year versus Tennessee. So there's been those big at-home wins that Billy Napier's been able to provide the last couple of years. Miami seems to be in that boat as well. So, that would be beneficial for Florida to play like that again, but to create some momentum. If there's one word that has really done Billy Napier in so far in his tenure at Florida, it's been momentum. Like I said, you had that win versus Utah last year or in year one, only to follow it up the week later by, just completely no-show versus Kentucky. And then last year, you beat Tennessee at home only to falter just a couple of weeks later again against Kentucky again. So thankfully, maybe Kentucky's not early in the season to derail Florida's early season momentum. That game's later in the season, but just not being able, going back to recruiting. You had that number 3 recruiting class last year, not being able to keep that up. So momentum has not been friendly to Billy Napier, but you got to start somewhere to build momentum, and no better place than getting that game 1 win against Miami.
The best in Florida football coverage, folks. Gators Breakdown, favorite audio platform right here on YouTube, gatorsbreakdown.com as well. You see David and where to follow him on X. David, we always appreciate the breakdown. Good to see you. Hope everything's well, and we will see you soon.
Yeah, thanks, Mark.